Hello, and welcome to the Tangle of the Day. My name is Amy Lilien-Harper, and I am a certified Zentangle teacher, and I am also one of the children's librarians at the Wilton Library, and I am here to teach you a tangle today. Now, before we start, I'm going to really quickly go over my different supplies here so you know what we're working with. Now we are going to be working on this little tile. It's called a bijou tile. It's quite small. You can see in comparison to my pen right here. And our standard size tile is this one, but I'm working on the bijous because that way I can complete an entire tangle in a fairly short period of time for these tutorials. And you can see it's roughly a quarter the size of a standard size tile. So I'm going to put that one aside. We're going to work on this little guy right now, and I'm just going to really quickly show you what I have for my materials. So I am working with this pen. It is a Micron 01. It has an extremely fine point, and it is an ink pen, not like a ballpoint. You can use any pen you have. I do recommend it be a regular ink pen, not a ballpoint, and the finer the point, the better. I also have a pencil. This is an official Zentangle pencil, and you can see it's quite small, but any soft lead pencil will work fine. And I also have this nifty little thing. This is called a tortillon, and it's a blending tool, and they are very easy to find in any art store or Michael's, anything like that. But if you don't have one, a Q-tip will work, or in a pinch you can use your finger or maybe roll up a piece of paper. Okay, so we're going to get started. The first step, and there are 8 steps to the Zentangle process, is gratitude and appreciation. I always like to think about being appreciative of having the time to do this and having these wonderful supplies. And I usually encourage my students to take a few deep breaths. If you want to do that, feel free to pause and do so. And now we're going to move on. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our pencil and we are going to do our corner dots. This is a blank piece of paper, which can be a little overwhelming. So we're going to make it so it's not blank anymore. And you can see I'm putting my dots quite close to my corners. I am doing that because I'm working on a bijou. My tile is quite small and I want to maximize my space. If I was working on a regular full-size tile, I would not be putting them quite so close to the edge. Once you've completed your 4 dots, you're going to go ahead and connect them into a border. Your lines do not need to be perfectly straight. You are not perfect. None of us are, and perfection is not the idea in Zentangle. We do everything freehand, and we embrace any mistakes or errors. There's no mistakes in Zentangle. All right, so you can see I've completed my border, and I'm going to put aside my pencil now. Normally at this point, we would create a string, which is a way to break up our space. But because I am working on this little tiny bijou and I'm only doing 1 tangle, I am not going to do that today. And you will notice that as I work, I rotate my tile. One of the reasons the tiles are square and small is so that you are able to move it around so that you can hold your hand in the most comfortable position rather than having to twist it around. It also allows you, as you do repetitive motions, to rotate your tile so you're doing it the same way over and over again, which gets you more consistency if you so desire. So today, you'll notice I have mine pointed this way because I like to make this tangle coming from a corner. The tangle we're going to do today is called Flux. This is a very easy tangle and it's very flexible. There's lots and lots of variations on it. I'm going to show you kind of 2 things you can do to stylize it, or 3 really. So we're going to start off, and I'm just going to start by making a sort of a teardrop shape. And that's it. That's my teardrop shape. And then I'm going to just draw a line up the middle of it. Looks a little bit like a leaf with a vein in it. And additionally, to add a little more interest, if you would like, you can draw 1 or 2 dots up here. I often don't, but for today I will. So I'm going to draw just 1. I did that really lightly. And you can do that or not. It's totally up to you. Now I'm going to do another one. And I'm going to draw it right here. This is a fabulous tangle for beginners and children because it's a very easy, free-form kind of tangle. It also works nicely because it fits into funny spaces you can make it fit in. Now you can see I've got this sort of space in between them, and I like to then use that space to draw another one. And you can see that my my little leaves don't all look exactly the same. They're not necessarily the same size. They could be a slightly different shape. That is fine. I'm making them fairly large, but you can make them any size you would like. And I'm just going to keep drawing mine kind of in a chain. You do not need to make them in a chain. We will fill out this tile a little more before I'm done, but it does work really nicely to put your little flux leaves in the crevices created where they come together. So I'm going to go ahead and make kind of a little chain of them because it's just fun to do. And I've got only a little room here, so I'm just going to finish off right there. But I now have this other space, and I can do a lot of things here. I could just leave this. I could make some more. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate, and I'm going to fill in some here. Rather than making them a chain this time, though, I'm going to kind of make them more bushy. So I'm going to do 2 there. And then I am going to go ahead and fill in here, but I'm going to try to fill in here as well. And I'm going to put another one over here. So you can see how they can go together or not. And I'm actually going to just bring these so that they're sort of kissing these ones here. And that looks pretty full on that side. So I'm going to draw some more on this side. And I could have, rather than doing that chain initially, I could have made them all spread out and fill. This is a really great tangle to fill a space. It does heart shapes beautifully if you use a heart-shaped string. And it just fills in so nicely because you can see I'm just making it fill in all my spaces that are empty right here so that it just kind of fills up the space. And you know what? I think I need one more leaf like right here. So I'm going to do another one coming out of this guy right there. Okay. I could be done, but another thing that I like to do that is often done to just add a little bit of extra interest is in these little spaces where my leaves come together and I've got a little room, I like to draw little orbs. It looks sort of like a little drop of water. And I won't do it in every single one, but I will do it in ones that I feel like could use a little extra, where there's a little, like this one right here definitely needs one because there's that big space right there. And I want to fill it up. And then this one too. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw some orbs, and you can go ahead and do that. And yours does not need to look like mine, by the way. You may feel free to fill your space however you so desire. And if you don't want to put in little orbs, you do not have to. Now, again, I could be done, but another thing that I like to do to just add a little more oomph is to fill in these little spaces, these little interstices. So I'm going to just color some of these little spots in black with my pen, and some of these are really tiny, so it really just takes me a second to touch my pen to that space, and it's just filled in just like that. I do have some bigger ones, so like for instance right here, I could have put an orb in there, but it would have been really tiny and barely visible, so instead I'm just going to color that space in entirely. Same thing with this space, and I could actually color in my entire background. As you can see, I'm going back and adding a few more orbs as I go, which is another thing that's really fun about Zentangle is as you're working and completing things, you may find that a space sort of, this is going to sound silly, but wants something. And so you might want to add a little, an extra little flux leaf or another tangle into that space. Or you may decide that you like having some empty white space, and that is totally fine too. I have a tendency to fill a lot of my space, although I might have left this one with a little less, except that I wanted to show you all the ways you can kind of make flux move and fill spaces. So I'm just going ahead and filling in these little interstices. And I am going to fill in these ones here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fill in a little bit more black in here because I feel like this space could use a little bit more. This is a great way to add some contrast, especially if you are working on a tile and you have a lot of line work and not much like black contrast kind of tangles. A little bit of background coloring in on a tangle like this, which is really more of a line work tangle, is a nice way to do it. And you see I just stuck a few more little orbs in there because I felt like I didn't want to just color that all in. So I just added in a few more little orbs. This is a very organic tangle, which is nice because it's very flexible. It's very user-friendly. You really can't mess it up. And if you look it up online and look at the styling, you will see that Maria's styling for the way she does this and Rick's styling are so different. They almost look like they're completely different tangles, which I think is so fascinating. But it also sort of shows you that whatever your style is, that is fine. It doesn't need to look exactly like mine. It doesn't need to look exactly like Rick's or Maria's or anyone else's. It needs to look like yours. And that is something I really do encourage, that you find your way in the Zentangle practice and just create something that is yours, and don't worry about it looking perfect per se or looking exactly like what I do or what Rick does or what Maria does. Just want it to look the way you want it to look. So I think that's pretty good. I don't really have much space left there to fill in, and you can see how quickly I did that. This tangle is a very quick tangle. And now I'm going to go ahead, I kept my pen, I put it aside, and now I'm going to go ahead and shade. And there's lots of ways to shade everything, as I always say, but this one is super easy to shade and it's really fun. I just like to put a little bit of my graphite down at the base of each of my little leaves. So just a little bit, not too much, because as always, you don't want to make everything shades of gray. You want to make sure you keep that nice contrast between the black and the white, but you do want to give it a little bit of depth. And so I'm just going to do that. And I'm going to put my pencil aside. I'm going to grab my tortillon and I'm just going to spread out, just going to draw that lead up my leaves just a little bit, not all the way. You can see I'm stopping before I even get to the end of most of my little veins. I'm just going to bring a little bit of it up, and it's a very relaxed kind of shading. You don't have to do anything too specific. Just spread that lead around a little bit. And you see I forgot to do this one, but I actually think I have enough graphite left on the tip of my tortillon, because this is an old one, I've used it a lot, to just put some right in there. And you definitely don't want to overshade because then you lose your contrast, but you can definitely use a decent amount of lead as long as you keep it right at the bottom when you first start. And if I hadn't done so much background, I could have done some shading around the outside, but I really like the way this one looks when you do it just like that. You just get a little bit of that base and then the white up at the top. And so there is our flux. As we always do when we finish a tile, even a little tiny bijou tile, we like to choose a spot and sign it. And you want to choose a direction it goes, but I really feel like this one still goes this direction, which of course is diagonal, but I don't really care. And I'm going to sign it right in this little space right here. There's some nice room in there for me to sign right there. So I just put my initials, and then you turn it over. And this tangle is called Flux. So I'm going to write Flux here for you so you can see. Very easy to spell. Very easy to write just the way it sounds. And then I would normally sign my tangle on the back. And I like to date them. And sometimes I'll write a little information about when I did it or whatever. And I believe that today is the 11th. So I'm going to write that on there. And there you go. That is Flux. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have created a lovely little tile, which you can now appreciate how beautifully it's come out. And I hope to see you again soon.